Hey everyone! Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're talking about an amazing idea, faster-than-light travel. It might sound like science fiction, but scientists are exploring ways to make it possible. Let's jump in. Imagine spaceships zooming through space at the speed of light or even faster. Scientists have discovered new ways to travel up to 10 times faster than light. This could change everything for space exploration. Remember the Concorde, the supersonic plane that flew from Paris to New York in just 3.5 hours? That was a big step in air travel. Today, we need spaceships that can travel faster than light because the distances in space are huge. For a long time, scientists thought nothing could go faster than light because of Einstein's theories. He said that as things move faster, they get heavier and need more energy. So, it seemed impossible for anything made of matter to reach light speed. But what if we could bend space and time? You might know the idea of a warp drive from movies like Star Trek. In this concept, a spaceship could move faster than light by distorting space around it. Here's how it works: the spaceship creates a bubble that expands space behind it and contracts space in front of it. This lets it move faster than light without breaking the laws of physics. Inside the bubble, the passengers wouldn't even feel much, just a slight vibration. Now, there are still big challenges. To create this warp bubble, we need a huge amount of energy, about as much as the mass of Jupiter. That's where negative matter comes in. It's a special type of matter that scientists think might help us create warp drives, but we haven't found it yet. Right now, our fastest spacecraft, like the Parker Solar Probe, only travel at about 191 kilometers per second, way slower than the speed of light. It would take us over 100,000 years to reach the nearest star system, Proxima Centauri, with our current technology. To explore space like we dream, we need new technologies. Scientists are working hard on warp drive technology and other ideas to make faster-than-light travel a reality. So, that's the exciting future of space travel. We might one day zoom through the cosmos faster than we can imagine. On August 23, 2023, India did something amazing. They successfully landed on the Moon's South Pole. This was a huge deal because they became the first country to do so. India's mission, called Chandrayaan-3, came after a tough setback with their Chandrayaan-2 mission, which didn't go as planned. The south pole of the moon is super important. Why? Because scientists believe there are big deposits of water ice there. Water is crucial for future astronauts living on the moon. It can be used for drinking, breathing, and even making fuel. But landing there isn't easy. The moon has bumpy terrain with lots of craters and sharp rocks. So, India's lander, named Vikram, had to be very smart. It used special cameras and sensors to navigate safely to the surface. Once Vikram landed, it released a little buddy called Pragyan, which means wisdom. This tiny rover rolled onto the moon to explore. Vikram's job is to measure temperatures and study the moon's thin atmosphere. Pragyan didn't go too far, though. After just a week, the moon went into a long night where temperatures dropped below -100 degrees Celsius. BRRR. Both Vikram and Pragyan went to sleep to survive the cold. Unfortunately, when the moon woke up, we didn't hear from them. It seems the extreme cold might have been too much for their technology. But India is still super proud of their achievements. India's space program is impressive, especially considering they do it on a smaller budget compared to places like NASA. Their success can help with future missions, including NASA's Artemis missions, which aim to return humans to the moon. Now, let's jump from the moon to the stars. Recently, scientists have been working on a new kind of space travel called warp drive. This could let us travel faster than light. Instead of needing super strange things like negative energy, researchers are looking at something called warp bubbles. These bubbles could allow spaceships to move through space using energy we already know about. Dr. Harold Sunny White discovered real warp bubbles while studying tiny structures between metal plates. With more research, we might one day have real warp drives for interstellar travel. So, there you have it. From India's incredible lunar landing to exciting possibilities for warp drives, space exploration is more thrilling than ever. Did you know there's a lot of water on the moon? Recent discoveries show that water can be found in tiny glass beads in the lunar soil. This means astronauts might not need to build a big pipeline to get water from the South Pole. Instead, they can just heat up the moon rocks to get the water they need. Now, let's talk about a fascinating discovery by China's Chang'e 5 rover. It found something in the Kármán crater that looked like a hut. Scientists are buzzing with questions. Could this be proof of aliens? Experts think it's probably just a big rock that looks like a hut from far away. They're investigating further and will slowly move closer to it over the next few months. It's a bit like a space detective story. Speaking of mysteries, let's talk about a rocket that crashed into the moon back in March 2022. It created a double crater, two overlapping holes instead of one. This surprised scientists because they didn't expect it to look like that. The origin of the rocket is still a bit confusing. At first, they thought it was from a SpaceX mission, but later figured out it might have come from a Chinese mission. After the crash, the moon seismometers picked up some strange vibrations, almost like the moon was ringing like a gong. This leads to an interesting idea called the hollow moon theory, suggesting there might be empty spaces inside the moon. Now, let's take a trip back in time to the Soviet Union. They were really good at space exploration. Some astronauts even reported seeing UFOs while they were in space. One astronaut filmed mysterious lights from the International Space Station, but his superiors didn't seem interested in looking into it. The Soviets also sent missions to Venus and took amazing pictures. But some people think they might have found evidence of life there and just didn't tell anyone. One scientist named Leonid Sonomali claimed he saw signs of life in photos from the Venera 13 mission. He said there were strange objects that looked like aliens. But many scientists were skeptical and thought these could just be tricks of light or camera errors. So, what do you think? Are there aliens out there, or is it just a bunch of rocks and shadows? Space is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Let's talk about Venus. A scientist named Leonid Sonomali once claimed he spotted aliens in photos taken by the Soviet Venera 13 probe. He thought he saw strange creatures, but many experts said those were actually just parts of the probe itself. Despite being a respected scientist, most of his colleagues didn't believe his claims about aliens. Sadly, he passed away in 2019, but the mystery of extraterrestrial life keeps on. Now, let's explore some secrets about space missions. During the Cold War, both the USA and the Soviet Union were racing to see who could do more in space. They had some amazing successes, but also some tragic accidents that were kept quiet. For example, we know about the tragic Apollo 1 accident where astronauts lost their lives. The Soviet Union also faced disasters, but they often hid the details to avoid looking weak. One serious incident was the Nelen disaster in 1960, where an explosion during a test killed many people. This was kept secret for nearly 30 years. And there were more accidents, like the Soyuz 11 mission in 1971, where astronauts died because of a pressure drop in their spacecraft. That was a really sad moment in space history. Even today, scientists are searching for signs of life on Mars and Venus. They found organic molecules, which means they have carbon, but that doesn't always mean there's life. It's like finding a candy wrapper in a park. Just because it's there doesn't mean someone is eating candy right now. Today, Russia is still active in space. They're working with other countries on the International Space Station, which is a great example of teamwork. However, their recent lunar mission didn't go as planned and sadly crashed into the moon. Now, let's talk about something mind-blowing. What if we could live forever? Some scientists think that by studying tiny particles, called quanta, we might find ways to reverse aging. Did you know there's a jellyfish that can get younger? If scientists figure out how it does that, we might be able to stop aging too. There's also a cool theory called biocentrism. It says that life creates the universe, not the other way around. This means we might be more than just our bodies, we could be connected to something much bigger. So, what do you think? Are we alone in the universe, and is immortality possible? Space is full of mysteries, and we're just scratching the surface. Let's talk about something really cool, consciousness. There's a scientist named Robert Lanza who suggests that consciousness, what makes us aware, might actually create the universe. Think of it like a giant tree. Every time you make a choice, it creates a new branch, leading to a different version of your life. This means every decision you make opens up a new path in the universe. Now, if consciousness creates the universe, what happens after we die? Some people believe that consciousness doesn't just disappear, it might continue in another form or dimension. Imagine if, after your body is gone, your thoughts and experiences move on to a different reality. Lanza thinks consciousness could be everywhere, inside us, plants, animals, and even in the empty space around us. This idea is kind of similar to beliefs in some cultures that everything has a spirit or soul. Let's dive into something super fascinating, quantum physics. This is the science of tiny particles. Lanza's ideas connect with this because some scientists believe that consciousness can change matter. There's even a jellyfish that can get younger. If scientists figure out how it does that, maybe we could find a way to stop aging, too. Next up is the multiverse. Imagine an infinite maze where every decision you make creates a new version of you in a different universe. It's like a giant cosmic game of what if. In this idea, when something isn't observed, it can exist in multiple states at once, just like Schrödinger's cat, which is both alive and dead until you look inside the box. Now, let's shift gears and talk about something called the Higgs boson, often nicknamed the God particle. Scientists discovered it in 2012, and it helps explain why things have mass, like why you weigh something. Think of the universe like an ocean filled with a special energy called the Higgs field. Some particles, like light, don't have mass and can move through this field easily, while others, like us, interact with it differently. Recently, scientists observed something surprising. The Higgs boson was unstable and broke apart. This was shocking because it challenged what they thought they knew about this particle. So, while the Higgs boson isn't God itself, it plays a crucial role in how we understand the universe, like when God said, "Let there be light." What do you think? Is consciousness really the key to understanding the universe, and what does the Higgs boson mean for us? Imagine you're swimming in a pool. You can move around, but if you swim too long, you'll run out of breath. Just like you, particles swim through something called the Higgs field, which gives them mass, like how you feel heavier in water. Now picture a plastic bottle floating in the water. It just sits there without much motion, representing heavier particles like the W and Z bosons. These particles interact a lot with the Higgs field, which is why they have mass. When a swimmer or a shark moves, they create waves. These waves are similar to the Higgs boson. When particles interact with the Higgs field, they make waves that show us they're there. Scientists discovered the Higgs boson at a giant lab called the Large Hadron Collider, or LHC. Finding the Higgs boson was like spotting those waves in the water. But here's the twist, the Higgs boson doesn't stick around for long. It lasts only a tiny fraction of a second. It's super fast, so fast that we can't even see it with our eyes. This makes studying it really tricky. If the Higgs boson gives mass to other particles, where does it get its mass from? That's a big mystery. When the Higgs boson decays, it's like big ocean waves turning into smaller ripples. It breaks down into other particles, like W bosons and leptons. Scientists at the LHC are like treasure hunters, trying to find these tiny particles. They're using super smart machines to help them find out more about these mysteries. But, even with all this effort, they're still left with more questions than answers. Speaking of mysteries, did you know that the Soviet Union was the first to land a spacecraft on Mars in 1971? But they kept it a secret. Why? Because the probe only sent back a little bit of data before it stopped working. They were hoping for big discoveries, but it didn't turn out that way. The Mars 3 probe did take the first image of the Martian surface. Imagine if they had found signs of life or cool alien cities. But they were too embarrassed to share a not-so-great success. During the space race, the US and the Soviet Union were always trying to outdo each other. While the US was landing people on the moon, the Soviets were quietly working on Mars missions. After a lot of ups and downs, both countries faced challenges that kept them from sending humans to Mars. But today, thanks to advances in technology and space exploration, we're closer than ever to possibly sending people to Mars. Right now, 5 countries have rovers exploring Mars. They're searching for signs of life and gathering important data. Exciting, right? The journey of discovering Mars is just getting started, and there's so much more to learn. Who knows what amazing things we'll find out in the future? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more cool space adventures.